Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting version of Chip Talks podcast. So today we're welcoming back Coach Bri with Sculpt by Bri. So we're going to have another interesting conversation. This is 3 out of 3 episodes that we've done with Bri. So each one of these is kind of built on the other, and we're excited to have Bri back today. So welcome back, Sculpt by Bri, Coach Bri.
Hi, Chip. I'm so glad to be back and to continue this conversation about the master regulatory system. It's been really insightful getting those action steps about like what we can do to take control of our health and at the most foundational level.
Very cool, very cool. And so today we're going to do what we've done in the past, but I'm going to kind of ask you a question, and then I'm going to throw it to you, really, to kind of ask me questions about the master regulatory system. But I'm curious, like with your clients and the people that you work with, what's the main issue that you have with the people that you're working with?
Yeah, the main issue that we work through in my virtual Sculpt Fitness Academy is primarily getting past weight loss and body transformation plateaus. That's the more exciting side of my business. Of course, all of it is exciting, but primarily ladies come to me because they're struggling to shred body fat. They're struggling, maybe they're working out and they've been working out for a long time or eating healthy, but they still can't get abs. And that can feel really frustrating, or they can't lose that last 15 pounds. That's what we primarily focus on. But with the method that I've created in my academy, I've been able to create a workout program that's 14 minutes long that helps women not only get abs, but also to relieve back and body pains. So a lot of my clients also struggle with things like sciatica, back pain, shoulder pains, things like that. And we're able to help them relieve body pain by incorporating dynamic movement. But we also integration of nutrition, balancing your macros, reducing inflammation, healing the gut. Under Dr. Carmen Jones, she's the naturopathic doctor in my Sculpt Fitness Academy, we're able to help women move past chronic inflammation, healing their guts at the root cause. So they're able to reduce my older clients' pains of arthritis, and not even, I mean, even ladies in 20s have had problems with arthritis that we help to work through, helping them to have less bloat, better digestion, and fewer sick days. So those are the primary pains that we work through, breaking past your body sculpting plateaus, reducing body aches and pains, healing gut, and then also balancing hormones. So a lot of my ladies who come to me have trouble with having a regular cycle, whether their cycle is away for too long, or they're having constant bleeding, or they're getting reports back of having high estrogen levels or imbalanced progesterone. Often we have ladies who come with things like fertility issues. So it's really exciting to get to help these women master the foundations of their hormones as well. So those are the 4 primary areas of pain: body sculpting, shredding body fat, balancing hormones, reducing inflammation in the body, and managing back and body pains.
Very cool. No, that's awesome. And it's so needed because people really need there's so much misinformation out there, and people really need a guide. They need a shepherd, they need a Sherpa. They need somebody to kind of help them walk through all this new information. So thank you for what you do. I appreciate what you do. So I'm sure your clients do too.
Yeah. And it's really simple too. Every day we're eating 3 meals on average a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And by eating the same amount of meals that you're eating right now, by doing roughly the same amount of workouts, if you're already working out, often less workouts, you're able to tackle all of those problems and get results in a more efficient way. And that can feel so liberating and freeing. And it's such an honor and a great way to get to help women create freedom with their fitness in a simple way. So Awesome. Well, is that all of your questions about that? Are you ready to
Yeah,
dive
so
into the master regulatory?
let's dive in. Let's dive in. I'm ready.
Okay, great. Well, I am excited that you started today's conversation talking about body pains. Well, the pains that I work through with my clients, because I actually have a question starting out for you today about how can understanding the master regulars or master regulatory system, that MRS, how can understanding that help in managing daily body pains?
Oh wow. Okay. Well, that's a really really good question. And first of all, everybody always associates the master regulatory system, the endocannabinoid system, with cannabis. So let's kind of that is a way to approach the system, but it's certainly not fundamental to the system. Let's say the endocannabinoid system predates cannabis by about half a billion, sorry, 500 million years. So we had that way before the plant actually emerged. But anyway, the system is our master regulatory system. And as such, it really is involved in every regulatory function in our body. So it turns out that we make a molecule that's associated with the mediation of pain. And it's an endocannabinoid molecule. It's actually built from saturated fat. So it's called PEA. So technically, just eating more saturated fat should help us be able to mitigate pain better. But there's way more to the story than that. And so there's some gut biome dysregulation that can happen that can alter your ability to build PEA. There's lots of things that can kind of get in the middle of it. But with PEA and, let's say someone's inability to build it, we're looking at more pathogens, right? So bugs, some kind of bug is altering that state of things and is causing us to be in more pain. So that's kind of one aspect of pain in your body. The other aspect is configurable. And this is nice, meaning that you have control over this, and we all have control over this. But again, you'll hear me talk about this in a million different ways, but omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, we need to eat in balance. And if we don't, and right now we don't, we all eat way more omega-6s than omega-3s. Directly, you build from omega-6 fats something called prostaglandins. You build them from both O6 fats and O3 fats. But prostaglandins that you build from O6 fats are inflammatory and they'll cause pain. Okay. So something called PGE2, so prostaglandin E2, is a kind of inflammatory prostaglandin that causes pain, but is built from omega-6s. There's an omega-3 prostaglandin that's built from omega-3s called PGE3, and he's anti-inflammatory and pain reducing. So if you've got something going on, eating more omega-3s will help you build more PGE3s, which will help you mitigate that inflammation and reduce pain. So, there's kind of things that you can do on your own, eat more omega-3s, and there's things that, you've got to kind of perhaps look at a pathogen load and begin to change that. But both of those things have tremendous effects on our ability to mitigate pain. So if you're eating a lot of omega-6s and you've got a whopping, bacterial or pathogenic infection in your gut, then you're going to be in a lot of pain, and there's not going to be a lot of stuff that's going to help that. Again, fixing the pathogenic infection and eating more omega-3s, lowers the pain. So.
Wow, that's so incredible and empowering. So you recommend saturated fats, primarily omega-3s with those omega-6s. Do you have any sources, your favorite sources to get those nutrients? I personally love starting my day with coconut oil, but I don't believe that's an omega-3, but it is a saturated fat. So what are your favorite food sources?
Yeah, so we've got to be real careful because we have so much fat in our diet right now that's bad, right? And you're going to hear seed oils are bad, right? So seed oils are, like canola and, safflower oil and things like that. And those are kind of bad. Basically those oils, sapphire and these seed oils that they talk about all the time, will mimic the messaging molecules that bacteria make. So bacteria will make short chain fatty acids that they use to signal other bacteria and do work inside of you. So that's why these things can be kind of inflammatory, is they're mimicking, these bugs, basically signaling mechanisms. It's sources of good fat. Okay, so the types of good fat really are saturated fat. And again, you can get that as a source from meat. And so that's the main source of saturated fat, is from meat. But if you're a vegan, like me, or plant eater, avocados is a good source of saturated fat. Beans and nuts are a good source of saturated fat, but beans and nuts also have balance, which we'll talk about in a second. So, but if you're a meat eater, one of the things to be concerned about with, like if you're just going to go keto diet and all that, is that meat has fat in it, saturated fat, but it doesn't have a lot of monounsaturated, which is other type of fat, or omega-3, omega-6 fats. And if it does have omega-3, omega-6 fats in it, it's only kind of as good as how that farmer finished that beef. And so, or pork or whatever. But if that farmer was feeding that beef a bunch of corn, then that beef is going to have a lot of omega-6 in the fat and no omega-3, right? So if you're eating meat, you've got to kind of know where your meat sources, if you're eating from the grocery store, that meat's going to have a lot of omega-6, and you're going to have to offset with omega-3 in order to balance that. In order for that to be a healthy kind of keto type behavior. So if you're on a keto diet, more omega-3. Where does omega-3 come from and omega-6? Omega-6 is in corn, and we get a plenty of omega-6s. In fact, good luck trying to eliminate omega-6 from your diet. So we get a lot of omega-6. You need to be concerned about omega-6 because it's important, but it needs to be balanced with omega-3. In our diet, in the Western diet right now, there's like 0 sources of omega-3. So you're going to have to work to find sources of omega-3. The main sources of omega-3 are chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, walnuts. Okay, so those are the best places to kind of get them. The nice thing about like chia seeds is they're a real easy ingredient. And, you've browned your ground beef, just add some chia, about a tablespoon a person, is enough chia really to kind of do you for the day. But anyway, it's not like we can go out and continue to, let's say, just eat meat. I'm going to do the keto diet. I'm going to go straight meat diet, right? Well, you're getting plenty of saturated fat. And again, if that meat was ethically raised and sustainably raised, you're likely getting some O3, O6. But if it wasn't, you're not. So you're going to have to supplement.
Yeah. Do you recommend like grass-fed, grass-finished for beef?
Yes.
And
yes.
I love a good wild-caught salmon for those omega-3 fatty acids. So wild-caught Alaskan salmon versus the farmed would be the equivalent to like a bad source of salmon.
Yes, absolutely. But with salmon and always with fish. So fish is a good source of omega-3. Absolutely. It's a source of EPA and DHA, which are breakdowns of the master guy, which is called ALA, or alpha linolenic acid. So in nutrition, it's better to go for this master precursor. So eating fish, nothing wrong with that. That's great. You're going to be getting omega-3s, but like I want to be after this master precursor guy, because you will break that down different as a female than I do as a male. And it's important to force your body to do that breakdown, because it sort of programs the machine, so to speak, right? So always with omega-3, I'm, nothing wrong with fish. Fish is great, but always I'm going to that. Again, it's, God built us this really cool world. And if we're paying attention, pretty much anything that we need, and I'm not going to advocate this over eating meat or anything. I'm just saying, let's, be smart and kind of pay attention. So anything that we need to sustain ourselves grows out of the ground. Okay. So we can completely live and sustain ourselves from stuff that grows out of the ground. So can other animals. And if the other animals are just doing what they naturally do and eating stuff, that's natural for them, their meat will imbue that, and their meat will also be good for us. But when we get in the middle of that mix and start messing with what animals eat, we mess everything up. And so you've got to kind of take back control with knowledge, and let's kind of build a better diet, right? Better source of omega-3s. So sorry to go long-winded on omega-3s, but
Oh, that's so good. It really feels empowering to know, okay, what can I have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner in order to support my MRS? So maybe starting the day with some chia seeds, chia pudding, adding some flax seeds, maybe in some oatmeal, topping it with some walnuts, and then maybe later in the day having some ground beef, grass finished, and maybe some salmon. Is that a pretty day?
Yeah,
Right.
no, that's exactly. Yeah, and again, you don't need a lot, a tablespoon, let's say, of chia seeds or something like that a day, is plenty. But that sets a real loose, dynamic kind of situation in your immune system, and that's really what we want. And it sets that situation up for pain. If anybody wants to research, Dr. Artemis Simopoulos is a great source for O3, and you can read all about how changing these ratios messes you up, or equalizing these ratios really levels us out, makes us super healthy. Really hard to get sick if you're eating 1-to-1.
Awesome. Well, taking notes all about that there. What are some other natural methods or products that can aid in pain relief?
Yeah, so there are interesting things, I would say, in nature that really, really help a lot with pain relief. And that licorice would be one, clove would be one. We've known about clove for a long time just because of, dental, and clove buds and oil have been used for a long time in dental practice. But it turns out if we eat clove or eat licorice, that those are really, really good things to help us mitigate, let's say, the signaling side of pain. And they work really because of, endocannabinoid action. So they have actions with the prostaglandins and the things that, kind of I was talking about earlier. You can also mitigate pain in the endocannabinoid system via reducing inflammation. And so turmeric is always a great way to reduce inflammation. Black pepper pairs well with turmeric, and that's what we do in our product design and kind of the products that we build in TruMedX. So I'll pair a lot of times turmeric with black pepper, but that's a really good way to reduce inflammation. So if you look at pain as kind of two things, right? It's a signaling thing. So it's the nerves and raw nerves you can think of as signaling. And then it's also an inflammatory type thing. So, if you attack it kind of through both ways, it will really help with pain. So turmeric is a good way to address the inflammatory. Turmeric, ginger, there's a lot of good anti-inflammatories, but ginger tea, turmeric tea, great thing to do in the morning, right? So, and just cut your pain. Yep.
So good. I love a good ginger tea, especially in the fall. You can add in those cloves for a spiced ginger tea, and then just chewing on those cloves at the end for a little treat. So good. I am ready for these fall flavors. You're getting me excited to make the tea.
Oh, sorry. Nutmeg is another interesting one that is a good fall flavor that's really good. It's antibiotic, but anti-pathogen, let's say, and it's really good at pain relief. So, and it kind of has a nice head effect if you have enough of it. So, but you have to be kind of careful with it. Yeah.
Tasty. Well, we will be enjoying all the fall flavors to help manage our pain relief this season. So, okay, we talked about pain. Another area that can feel like a pain for some people is improving the quality of our sleep. So, how does the MRS impact sleep quality, and what can we do to make sure that we're catching better quality Z's at nighttime?
Yeah, so I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's all going to come back to like diet really for this endocannabinoid system. And so, first of all, the health of our machine. So, are we infected with something? But then what are we putting in our machine to kind of optimize our machine? So the more we get these fats right, and again, there's just 4 types of fat: saturated, monounsaturated, omega-3, and omega-6, but especially the omega-3, omega-6. the more that we get those right, just the more that our machine will perform the way that it's supposed to perform. Now, the way that sleep works, so sleep is really a fascinating thing, and it almost sits above our master regulatory system. Like, you have to sleep, and so it's sort of, it's involved with the endocannabinoid system, but it kind of, you likely would still sleep if you didn't have one, let's say. So it's involved, but basically, our sleep, if I stimulate your endocannabinoid system at CB1, so this is something like cannabis, the THC in cannabis would stimulate you at CB1, then you're going to have a real defined profile. So you're going to get excited and then you're going to fall asleep, right? And it's almost like if I overstimulate you at CB1, you're just going to fall asleep. So this is why people really don't ever overdose, let's say, from marijuana, is that if I overstimulate you at CB1, you'll just pass out. So you just fall asleep. You'll wake up well rested and wonder what the heck happened to you, right? So stimulating CB1 is a good way to promote sleep, but it's also excitatory on the front end. So you have to either go really hard and heavy, or you've got to understand, hey, I'm going to take this 2 hours before I go to bed, and an hour after I feel real excited, I'm going to get real sleepy. So cannabis can be used, as a tool for sleep. And again, if you have insomnia and you are open to cannabis, it is absolutely the best tool in the world for sleep. You'll sleep deeper, better, longer than you ever have. So it is something that I do recommend strongly for sleep. CBDs will help with sleep and help you calm down. But, food is the biggest thing. And again, if you're eating a bunch of sugar at, 7 or 8 o'clock at night, you're likely not going to sleep very well, right? So if you're eating a bunch of carbs late at night, fats will calm you down. So fats will help knock you out, and they'll stimulate kind of that endocannabinoid system. But eating after, 7, 8 o'clock is probably not a good idea, because your body needs to process that food and kind of calm down. If you eat right before you fall asleep, again, your sleep situation is going to be interrupted by your food processing situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, noted there. Can you share some extra tips or products that help with improving better quality sleep?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say things that hit the CB2 side of the equation. So hops, CBDs, beta caryophyllene, things like that will really, really help on the sort of calming you down and setting you up for good sleep. Again, sort of the diet situation is going to be what determines, good sleep overall, but I can set you up for good sleep. And so within TruMedX, we've got a couple of different products. We have a sleep product, a product called Rest, that is very, very good for calming you down. And then we've got another product called Rewind. Rewind is if you were overdosing on THC, part of that is just a huge anxiety response. And so I want to be able to cut that anxiety as quick as I can. So we've got a product called Rewind. That's our, let's say, THC overdose product, but it's also really good calming, anti-anxiety, sleep promoting, let's say, product. And that's what we mainly are trying to do with our product, is get you in a very calm, relaxed state of mind, get you kind of, where don't have 100 trains running, and where you're, ready for sleep. Your ability to sleep and the quality of the sleep is way more kind of diet pathogen driven. So if you're pathogen free and you got a good diet, you're going to sleep really well. If you're not, you won't. So.
Okay, awesome. So making sure we're eating ultimately balanced meals throughout the day, making sure we're getting enough fats, protein, complex carbs throughout the day. That should also help to support better quality sleep at night.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Great.
Do you have any input on using decaffeinated green tea to help with sleep at night? I believe it's like the L-theanine, if I'm pronouncing that right.
L-theanine, yep.
Help support the MRS?
Yeah. L-theanine will definitely help, with kind of relaxation and mental. It will actually kind of stimulate your mind too. So you got to be kind of careful with mind stimulants, I would say. But theanine, I'm more just familiar with it for just general health, right? So it's a really, really good thing to take for general health. Green tea also has gallicachins in it. So tea will have something called resveratrol in it and something called gallicachins. And they really help. They help more with our kind of fasting and fed state. So it's a way that you can flip that fasting and fed switch and kind of beta oxidize, with tea. I'd go the real like clove, nutmeg, those type things in the evening, just because they're more down regulating and kind of give you that warm blanket. Theanine can light you up too. So that's kind of would be the thing that, and I haven't really looked at theanine for sleep. So I'm not gonna go whole hog on that one, but I'd go more the down regulating, let's just say herbs, in the evening. So it's more the kind of the calming and things like that. Tea has a tendency to, for me at least, kind of stimulate me. So
Yeah. I kind of get both effects. I think it just kind of depends on maybe what I've been eating that day. Well, this actually is a perfect topic for leading us into my next question of focusing a little bit more on focus and cognitive health. I know that L-theanine and green tea helps with that focus and that brain stimulation, but in what ways does supporting the MRS influence focus and cognitive health?
yeah, okay. Well, that's a really good one. Again, focus on cognitive health, while there is some theanine in there, theanine really is, if you look at cognitive health, it's several different things. So it's the ability to, let's say, think clearly without a bunch of chronic inflammation and infection and things like that. So first of all, I've got to be kind of concerned about, am I infected? And if I am infected, I got to kind of get rid of that, right? But then if I look at how my brain is running, again, it's all endocannabinoids. So it just depends on kind of whether you're stimulated or not. But if you look, you want the mitochondria, let's say, in our brains to be running at the most efficient way, the most efficient level that they possibly can. Part of the pathology of disease, and this is kind of why theanine is important, is bugs will want, or pathogens will want to kind of stick you in a state where your mitochondria are running on sugar, okay, or running on glucose. And again, theanine kind of blocks a way that they have to do that. So they could convert glutamate to glutamine and blah, 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 blah. But anyway, theanine kind of gets in the middle of that and it can help that process, which will help elevate, brain function and everything. But the biggest thing is, the biggest thing that we can do for our brains is trying to get our brains to begin to run on ketones versus glucose. Okay. And so you can do that easily. Just don't eat for 48 hours and it'll automatically happen. But how do I do that in a normal, I've got to eat, everybody needs to nutrient themselves. So how do I optimize that and that? And so intermittent fasting is a really good, tool to do that. Resveratrol from green tea and all those things kind of flip that same switch. So there's ways that you can do that. But the big thing is kind of being in a fasted state, and again, eating equal amounts of omega-3, omega-6 are really important, but being in a fasted state really supports that 20x, brain function, and that'll translate to emotion and all that, right? So a lot of what's wrong with us, as far as, I'm depressed, or I have anxiety, or I have these lingering, let's say, things, is that we get stuck. We have a fight or flight because we eat so many more omega-6s and omega-3s. We set this real tight reactionary spring. And so any stimulus is just going to whack us out in this inflammatory direction. So fight or flight, again, fight or flight is a stimulus. And if we're in an inflammatory state, we're going to way go at that fight or flight with way too many chemicals, too much, dopamine, serotonin, cortisol, norepinephrine, all those guys. And we won't be able to dial that back. Okay. So dialing that back is sort of a, function of how much omega-3, omega-6, and how whacked out that is. If I'm eating the same amounts, I'll be able to dial that back right away. So if you think about, well, what is, anxiety and depression and those type things, it's kind of a stuck or lingering, fight or flight response. So.
Okay. So for a little clarity there, does that include caffeine overstimulating our system?
Yeah, so caffeine, our gasoline inside of us is something called adenosine triphosphate, ATP. And ATP works inside of mitochondria, and that's how we get energy, but it also is a signaling molecule. So your body is real sensitive to, do I have enough ATP versus ADP, or do I have too little? And you'll do all different kinds of things based on that ratio. I mean, your body, that's almost the most important decision that your body makes. Do I have enough ATP or do I not? And that's signaled through a system called adenosine. So, how do I know if I have enough in my legs versus my head versus my heart versus whatever? This is all signaled through this adenosine system. So coffee blocks adenosine receptors. And so it's going to make you feel like you have lots of energy, and it's going to kind of tell your body to produce more energy. So, in moderation, it's fine, but that is a system that you want to be very careful getting in the middle of, because it will affect, what happens after you drink a bunch of coffee? You get hungry. Why? Because, you're running at a higher metabolic rate. And so it's going to, if you're trying to lose weight, things like that, it's going to increase, let's say, your appetite stimulation, caffeine over time.
Okay. Great information. So what are some practical solutions or products that we can use to enhance focus and mental clarity throughout the day?
Yeah. So products that kick up, let's say, the efficiency of our mitochondria, that kind of help our mitochondria run better on oxygen, are super important. So we have a tablet product in TruMedX called Focus. It is called Focus, and it actually has L-carnitine is a big thing to help your mitochondria function better. And so we have a bunch of L-carnitine in that. We've got a bunch of stuff that helps you pull in fat into the mitochondria and kind of run the mitochondria more efficiently. Interestingly, I've just studied this. So the way that mitochondria work is there's this wheel or circle, and there's different reactions that happen all along this wheel or circle. So again, if I want to just make you super inefficient, again, I take away the circle and you're just going to burn glucose, and that's going to be pretty inefficient. But if I want you to burn fat, you're going to make your way around this circle, and you can exit around this circle at any time, and you're not as efficient, basically. So that's kind of what I'm studying right now, is what causes you to exit out of this circle and what causes these inefficiencies in metabolics. But if I want to be as smart as I can possibly be, as happy as I can possibly be, as strong as I possibly can be, as reactionary as I possibly can be, if I want to be my best me, I've got to optimize that circle, that energy circle.
Very exciting information. I look forward to hearing more of your talks about mitochondria health. That sounds super empowering. Okay, Chip, I have a burning question for you. Since you are the expert when it comes to, you are the guy who helped to write the bill that legalized marijuana in Oklahoma. So, and you specialize in the endocannabinoid system. I love hearing about these alternative ways to support the endocannabinoid system, since marijuana and even CBD is something that I don't partake, but I love the information about the healthy fats. My grandmother actually helped to pretty much reverse her cognitive decline through CBD. So I know about the incredible effects of it. And it's so helpful. But I have a question and concern about marijuana. So
Okay.
if someone smokes it, then that has an impact. The heat alone, objectively, would have an impact on our lungs. Those air packets in our lungs, they can become damaged from smoke. And then if you eat it over time, it's my understanding that it can lead to liver damage. So how do you have any input about that, or anything to add to those concerns?
Yeah, I'd say people have been smoking it and eating it for 12,000 years. No one's died yet, and no one's really gotten sick from it yet. So I remember when we were fighting for legalization here in Oklahoma, and I had to debate, all these, hoity-toity scientists and all this. And I remember one guy in particular, he'd always come and say, well, there's no research on marijuana. There's no research on marijuana. And what are you talking about? I mean, I could go pull up 100,000 studies on, the endocannabinoid system on marijuana. But he was talking about clinical, medical clinical trials type research on marijuana. But he always would bring up this rather weird study about, cigarette smoking, comparing that to cannabis smoke, and how they were, equal things. And so that's a misnomer. Cigarette smoke is nothing like marijuana smoke. Now, if you're smoking, 20 or 30 joints a day, then, that likely is going to cause some damage, and that's not a really smart thing to do. But if you're, again, 2 to 3 grams or something like that, you're probably within a margin of safety, just based on history. Eating cannabis, again, you have to be sure of what you're eating, right? So if I just fed you, like, let's say raw cannabis leaves, there's going to be some concern with pesticides, with, things that might have been used to grow that cannabis. And so you have to kind of be concerned about that. But raw cannabis leaves will not hurt anybody, and is, very, 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 very safe, high safety profile. And in fact, won't make you high. CBDA, the acid forms of cannabinoids, are actually better for you medicinally and what don't have any psychoactivity. So if you just ate raw leaves, as long as they didn't have pesticide on them, that's pretty safe. But as I take that leaf and now I begin to process it into a gummy or a brownie or something like that, now I've got a bunch of other crap, associated with that cannabinoid that may or may not be helpful for you. But raw cannabis itself, like THCA and CBDA and THC and CBD, won't hurt your liver. That's as far as I know. And if somebody knows something contrary, please let me know, because I'm in this every single day, and I've never seen anything that said that. So cannabis is pretty safe. It's safer than turmeric. It has a higher safety profile than sage. It's been around forever. It's never really hurt anybody. People get all wrapped around the axle with it, thinking it's the be all end all plant. I'm constantly have to fight a battle with this, kind of separating cannabis from the endocannabinoid system, because people just associate those two things. But, it's really, nature is the cool thing, right? So nature is the solution. That, it's not cannabis, it's nature that God put out there for us to see and understand, and to basically understand and utilize nature to improve our health and, help us, right? So we've regrettably have, now we've got a cannabis industry standing between us and that. And in the past we had a whole, pharmaceutical industry. But the big message there is God built us this great system that's right outside, and, it's up to us to kind of logically figure it out. But it's not hard. It's easy to figure out,
Great. Well, it feels really empowering to know how we can support this system in a variety of natural ways. So, how can someone book a service at Neighborly Wellness, and what can they expect from a personalized health assessment using bioresonance or thermal imaging?
Yeah, so it's real easy. You can just go to our website, and there's a book an appointment. Should be all over the website at Neighborly Wellness. One of the things that we try to do is, it's, if you come in and tell me, everything that you've got going on, I may have a pretty good idea of how to help you, or I may not, right? So it's always better to get more data and information. Now, the data and information that we get are from our evaluation methods, and they're non-medical. Well, thermal imaging is kind of medical. I mean, I can if I was a physician, I could diagnose you if you had breast cancer or not with thermal imaging. So it does have a diagnostic aspect, but we use it for a lot more information than that. But we have these informational tools that help me understand what's going on with you. If I can understand better what's going on with you, then that's going to help me kind of to a better decision about how to help you, and also how to educate you about what's going on and help you help yourself. So we try to use these evaluation methods in order to help you understand what's going on, educate you, and then we've usually got something in TruMedX that's going to help whatever you've got going on. But if not, we're going to educate you about kind of what you need to do, or send you down the road to the doctor, or kind of whatever, depending on severity. So we try to evaluate, understand, and then I can't really say treat, but let's say, suggest some things that might help you. So.
Yeah, great. So what exactly are the benefits of combining both your TruMedX products that you've created with neighborly wellness services?
Oh, yeah, it's because we're the trifecta, right? So if I can really evaluate what's going on with you, we make a decision and kind of inform you, you change your behavior, let's say, and then we also supplement into that and you get change. Well, we do that every day. So we know we've checked all those boxes, and, we're working, and we've got an actual way that I can show you through these evaluation methods that you're getting better. So like best example is, let's say, type 2 diabetes. If you have type 2 diabetes and I thermal image your feet, you're going to see that your feet aren't the same temperature. If we put you on the bioresonance, you're going to find that you have some bug that's in the middle of your kidney function, is likely causing the type 2 diabetes. Although we can't say that, but we can say, well, it's, he's doing this and here's what that does, and it kind of is causal. And then we can basically, as we treat you and have you back in, we can show you those same tests. Like I can show you on thermal imaging that your feet are getting closer together in temperature, which would indicate that your diabetes is getting better. I can show you on the bioresonance that your pathogen load is going down, and the things associated with type 2 and all that are getting better. And we've got a number that's associated with that. So we can basically informationally at least show you kind of your status is changing. And that's, for me, that's the thing that I want to know is, well, Chip, you tell me all this stuff and it's not drugs. And I know drugs work because they're powerful, and you're telling me to make all these behavior changes and take some sage and some turmeric and maybe I'll be okay. So if I get feedback that that's actually working, that's money. I mean, and that changes hearts and minds quicker than anything. So it's part of the evaluation is just being able to give people feedback. So
Amazing. That's so empowering. It's so wonderful to know that we can make behavioral changes, even though it's hard. It's definitely worth the fight. And it feels so empowering to also know that we can go get tested with bioresonance, learn about our parasites in our body, making sure nothing's out of check there. And I'm hearing so much about how in other countries that's talked about all the time, but in America, that's not talked about as much. So it's great to know you're the go-to person for that. I've been telling all of the ladies in my Sculpt Fitness Academy to go to you for thermal imaging for a safer, especially when it comes to, as we approach October, breast cancer, early detection can be life-saving. So going for you to that, and then throwing it out there while we're on the topic, you can go get both of those services and the products that help to support with my Sculpt by Bri 10% coupon.
Yes, and use that coupon because we want you to use that coupon. We want to know, we want to know kind of where you're coming from, but we also want you to get the discount, and we want to support everything that Bri's doing. What Bri's doing is so important. So if you are a Sculpt by Bri person or you're interested in becoming one, again, this is hard. You need coaching. I mean, most of us need coaching through this because you need support. If you're doing it with your family, well, great, good for you. But most of us aren't. We've got a husband or wife who's not supporting us through this. So we really need that support and coaching. And so I love what you're doing. I'm so glad that you're doing it, and it's so needed and necessary. So thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. And I'm so grateful to have been able to partner together and to amplify what we're both doing to help better serve our community. And that's within Oklahoma. And with the power of the internet, we're able to talk to women and men across the world. And the healthier we are, the more empowered we are to be able to take control of our health, then the bigger impact we all get to make in our communities. And that has just endless amount of benefit and potential for everyone. So very important work you're doing, Chip. Thank you for all that you provide for our community.
Yeah, and thank you similarly. So and this is good. So do you have any more questions, Bri?
I think that's all of them. Thank you so much for answering my 1,000,001 questions so well. And that's
so
all
this
I've got for you today.
So let's definitely plan on doing this again, because this has been fun and I think it's informative, and you have a different perspective on things than like where my brain goes, so you're way more clinical and kind of hands-on and all that. So I've learned a lot through this, so I appreciate doing it with you. So thank you. And I guess we'll leave it here. So if you are interested in being coached, and again, we all need coaches here, then please check out Sculpt by Bri. She's obviously a wonderful lady. She does a wonderful job. She's very friendly, and very encouraging. And, we need that right now. This is hard to do. It's hard to make these changes. So we need somebody like Bri to help us. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That means the world coming from you, Chip. And go to Chip for early detection for any illnesses and transform your life. So thank you for having me, Chip. It's been such an honor.
All right. Well, thank you, Bri, and we'll leave it there. So we'll see you next time on another exciting version of Chip Talks podcast. Bye, everybody.
See ya.